So I'm going to discuss how Disney's financial situation is so downright bad that they could completely collapse. Now, what sent me down this rabbit hole was a tweet from Meet Kevin last week saying that if you invested $100 in Disney stock 8 years ago today in 2015, you'd have about $76 today. Holy crapazoid, that's insane. Now look at this article here. Disney charged more for less. Now park attendance is way down. Their stock is at a 5-year low. Or this one. Disney World has a bigger problem than Ron DeSantis. People aren't going. Ha! In fact, they're doing financially horrible at every level. Theme parks, movies, streaming service, retail service, etc., etc. And at a time when bankruptcies in the entertainment industry continues to rise, the company's poor financial results are worrying Wall Street and sending their shares into the abyss. There's even a questionable CEO at Disney that we need to talk about. So I'm going to take a deep dive here and discover why we soon might have to say goodbye to the mouse and essentially might need to get used to a world without Disney. According to the box office analyst Valiant Renegade, Disney lost nearly $900 million following its last 8 studio releases, including box office flops like Lightyear and Strange World. Disney and Pixar movies used to be a sure thing at the box office, but it looks like the movie studio is struggling to connect with audiences. The last 2 offerings, Lightyear and Strange World, suffered at the box office, and one of the biggest reasons was the content. They both failed to find their footings with audiences. Lightyear made $226 million off a $200 million budget, while Strange World majorly flopped, making just $70 million off a $180 million budget. A complete failure. The last 8 studio movies they put out had very weak performance when compared to executive expectations. For a Disney movie to turn a profit, it needs to make double the amount of money invested in production. This is because of distribution and licensing costs. Guardian of the Galaxy and its most recent studio release, the live-action version of The Little Mermaid, didn't hit profit targets either. The Little Mermaid brought in a domestic box office total of $270 million and $229 million in foreign markets, resulting in a worldwide total of $499. In the US, its performance was 21% lower than executive expectations. This was after losing 205 theaters after a revised theater count of 3,275. The film was controversial right from the start, with the public being divided about casting choices, and also how that would impact the narrative of the classic screenplay. The Little Mermaid had a budget of $250 million, and they said it would need to earn $560 million worldwide, because otherwise it wouldn't return a profit after including costs, namely marketing. Moreover, Lightyear, which hit the theaters about a year ago, reported a budget of $200 million, but it only generated a modest $226 million in ticket sales worldwide. And this is while receiving mixed critical reception. By comparison, The Incredibles 2, released in 2018, which also had a budget of $200 million, grossed $1.2 billion in ticket sales. CEO Bob Iger has been facing increasing pressure due to mounting losses, but he's also dealing with a battle against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is trying to take over Disney World's theme park district. The conflict between DeSantis and Disney started in 2022 after Disney, in the face of rising backlash, publicly opposed legislation concerning a bill that's commonly known as Don't Say Gay. At the time, Bob Chapek was the CEO of Disney, and he pleaded to fight for the invalidation of the law that banned schools from teaching about sexual orientation and gender identity to the state students. In retaliation, DeSantis took over Disney World's governing district. He established a new board of supervisors. DeSantis ended a 55-year-old deal that allowed Disney World to govern itself, right down to controlling its own water, roads, and emergency services. Every year, the deal saved the company millions of dollars in taxes. DeSantis said that the decision was aimed at holding Disney accountable for entertainment that he considered inappropriate for school kids. The corporate kingdom finally comes to an end, he proclaimed. There's a new sheriff in town, and accountability will be the order of the day. Now when it comes to the backstory of the CEOs, by the way, if you haven't subscribed, hit that button, and if you have already, give me a like. I really appreciate it. But when it comes to the backstory of the CEOs, Bob Chapek was removed from his post as CEO. This decision was incredibly unexpected as Chapek had just signed a contract extension. For nearly 4 decades, only 2 CEOs served the Walt Disney Company. Michael Eisner from 1984 to 2005, and Bob Iger from 2005 to 2020. Since assuming his position as CEO, Bob Chapek proved to be the most divisive figure in Walt Disney World's history. Many people in the industry disagreed with Chapek's views of intellectual property. Disney enthusiasts were forced to deal with constant price hikes. In the 2 years under his management, the cost of a trip to Disney World or Disneyland increased exponentially. A ticket to visit Disney World's Hollywood Studios went from $124 to $170. Meanwhile, ticket prices for Epcot rose from $144 to $179. It's high-end one day, one park ticket rose to $189, the same cost to visit the Magic Kingdom. Meanwhile, Disney's Incredipass went up by $100 to $1,399. The Sorcerer Pass increased by $70 to $969, and the Pirate Pass rose by $50 to $749. Guests have also noticed price increases in everything from merchandise to food. For that reason, many fans say that Disney parks have become far too expensive for the average family. During Chapek's time in office, public approval of the company dropped, and the company's stock prices started to sink. His dispute with DeSantis led the Florida legislature to pass legislation allowing the governor to appoint a board to repeal those agreements and make the theme park's resorts monorail subject to state inspection, when it had previously been done in-house. Iger, who returned to his former position late last year, vowed to keep challenging DeSantis. DeSantis, in turn, seems determined to stick to his guns. Furthermore, they also scrapped a plan to invest nearly $1 billion to build a corporate campus in Florida. The cancellation was announced in an internal email to employees in May. The email said that the company's decision was a result of considerable changes that have taken place since it was first announced. In the email, Josh DeMoro, the head of the company's theme parks division, also referred to changing business conditions. Given the company's financial straits, falling market cap, and declining stock price, it's unsurprising that they would restructure their business operation and cancel unsuccessful ventures, DeSantis remarked. But the truth is that Disney's amusement park problems in Florida are small in comparison to the issues they're facing in their online and brick-and-mortar retail operations. They've been working to revive Disney Plus while ensuring the stability of the company's theme parks. Disney's streaming media business is going from bad to worse this year, and it appears that Iger doesn't have a clear strategy to improve its popularity or performance. Should the company try to expand its base of subscribers or raise rates for each subscriber they already have? Right now, Disney has problems with both. Disney faced streaming losses by $400 million in the prior quarter. Overall, it lost $659 million just on its streaming segment. Subscriptions dropped to 157 million from 161 million. Disney Plus grew fast, but it lost money every step along the way. Disney no longer licenses content, such as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to third-party platforms, and therefore has missed millions of dollars in potential revenue. The once envied entertainment company is now struggling to find a profit on almost every film it releases. Disney's bloated budget for these projects are vastly higher than the competition on average, basically considering the fact that every single film Disney releases comes with blockbuster production price tags, the analyst Valiant Renegade explained. Disney would have success and significantly more revenue if it pursued licensing agreements with major streaming services. But instead, the company is featuring content exclusively on its own platform. Basically, the House of Mouse is essentially being propped up by other parts of its business, including its theme parks and resorts and ESPN Sports. The problem is that as the economy slows down, these segments are more at risk of facing diminishing returns. On top of that, Chapek closed hundreds of Disney stores in 2021. They used to have over 600 stores in the United States and 11 other countries in 1997, and reached a peak of 1,000 stores in the year 2000. But in March 2021, Disney revealed that it will close 20% of its brick-and-mortar locations. That resulted in about 60 store shutdowns in the United States and about 6 of its 300 locations worldwide. They're scheduled to close before the end of this year. Wall Street is extremely worried about all this. Amid multiple controversies and shakeups, Disney's stock is nowhere near where it once was. Since the beginning of this year, shares plummeted by 20%. If you look at their balance sheet, they have around $40 billion in debt, with around $10 billion in cash. They do have receivables of $12 billion, but that's about $18 billion in debt. So far, the new CEO has not turned the company around. Instead, he laid off 7,000 workers in a cost-cutting move. The cuts come as he tries to slash $5.5 billion in costs just to keep the company afloat. The outlook is very concerning, especially amid a trend of billionaire bankruptcies in the entertainment industry. This year alone, Vice Media, Regal Cinemas, which owns Cineworld and City Media, filed for bankruptcy due to a a massive revenue drop and a loss of profitability. And just adding my thoughts about this, I'd like to say this is sad. I've been a fan of Disney all my life. I'm a Disney Vacation Club member. I was just there a couple of weeks ago. And the future of Disney is on the line. And now after all these years, it seems to be run by people who don't know how to manage it and keep it profitable enough to stay afloat. Very sad.